Okay. All right. We've still got a few people spilling in, so I'm just going to let everyone come in first before I start talking.
Hi, Rob.
Hello. How are we?
Good, how are you?
Good. Good. I've never done a Zoom call with this many people. A lot of faces. All right. There's still more going. How many we got? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8.
17.
11, 12, 13. Yeah. Okay. Awesome. All right. Well,
You could call it, Rob, you could call it your fan club.
yeah. So look, I mean, the amount of turn up shows me the level of interest in wanting to, I guess, work out what can be a little bit of a puzzle when it comes to nutrition and fat loss and intermittent fasting. Just as a show of hands, who's already intermittent fasting right now? Like who's?
Yep.
So quite a few of you. And who knows nothing about it, but wants to learn about it?
Of course.
So everyone's got to,
There's always more to learn.
Yeah. So I guess tonight was a little bit more of a Q&A, I guess, for the guys that are already doing it. In terms of, if you don't know anything about it, we did a bit of a challenge or an introduction into intermittent fasting, and I recorded all the videos. So just if you're not sure much about intermittent fasting and want to know a little bit more about it, just message me after this and I can send you it. It's like 9 videos, so it sort of goes step by step. I won't go into too much details all about that tonight because I more so wanted to just answer questions. But I think, like, in terms of, like, is fat loss, is that the main, like, was that sort of, I guess, what attracted most of you guys to wanting to hear what I had to say tonight?
Yeah.
Okay. So I guess if we sort of break it down, let's just start with that. And, there's a big difference between eating healthy and eating healthy for fat loss. Okay, they can be two different things. So, obviously, if we're eating healthy, we want to eat whole, natural, nutrient-dense foods, but there's certain foods that can still, I guess, that can store as fat more easily than others. And I guess to share with you guys what's been the most effective thing that I've found over the years, and sort of a bit of a system that I've used a few times. We used it on our retreat. We used it in challenges that I've done in past years. And that is, I'll share my screen. So I'm going to show you a couple of forms. So this is one of the forms that we handouts we had for our Level Up retreat. So essentially what we did was, for the food component, and I've found that this has been something that is reasonably easy to stick to. So we're counting our carbs. So some of you guys might have seen, I just posted in the group a handout, which I recommend everyone print out and stick it on the inside of your pantry. So you can count the carbs in different foods. And you might be surprised that some foods have got a lot more carbs than other foods. So what we basically have done in these past challenges is that we do 5 days a week. Generally, most people do Monday to Friday because that's easier to do from a compliance point of view, because most people work and they're just in a routine. Weekends are a little bit more varied. So you do 5 days a week where you're eating within what I've termed the fat loss zone or the accelerated fat loss zone. Okay, so what the fat loss zone is, you can see here, this is a list of foods, right? And the idea is that you're keeping your total carb content in grams. So you have to, initially, you want to weigh your foods, like weigh foods that have got carbs in them. and you can check, based off that handout that I put in the group, and you add up how many carbs you eat per day. And the idea is that we want to have it under 100 grams. And look, to be honest, I've found with most ladies, somewhere around that 50 to 100 grams of carbs. So for some people, it might be around 70 grams. So 100 grams might even be too much for you. You've got to really work it out individually, based off your size and just what your carb tolerance level is. But the idea is that you're keeping your carb grams under 100 grams if you're eating in the fat loss zone. You're keeping it if you're in the accelerated fat loss zone. So this is the people that want to, maximize their fat loss. You'd be going under 50 grams of carbs per day, right? So a lot of you might have heard of keto before. So with like a ketogenic style of eating, for most people, you're probably going to be going under 30 grams of carbs per day, which is not a lot. Like, it's not a lot. It's easy to clock that amount up. So we're sort of working in what I'd term, this is sort of around low carb to, when we're getting under 50, you're going sort of very low carb, very low carb, sort of in that spectrum. And you'll see that there's a list of foods here. Okay, so alcohol in this particular 5, like as I said, we're doing 5 days of eating in this fat loss or the accelerated fat loss zone. So you want to be having no alcohol in that time. Okay, I know that for some of you that might be a hard thing to do, but we're talking. I'm feeding you the information.
I can get through the week without it.
Yeah, we'll talk about the weekend soon. Don't worry, but I'm giving you.
Can I ask a question, Rob?
Yes.
Can I ask a question? Yeah,
Yep,
sorry, it's Lynn here. I've got my video off because I'm at bed.
Yeah, go for it, Lynn.
Alcohol. What is it in the alcohol that makes you gain weight?
Sugar.
So
Sugar.
it's very, yeah.
Sugar?
I mean, it's the actual alcohol as well as generally what it's, what it has with it. But to give you an understanding, like 1 gram of carb or protein has 4 calories. A gram of alcohol has 7 calories.
Right.
A gram of fat has 8 or 9 calories. I can't remember the top
But
of my
when
head.
you're talking about alcohol, are you talking about the alcohol itself or the wine because it's from grapes and they ferment it? I mean, I just don't understand
All of the above. All of the above.
Or,
So alcohol is like a fast delivery system, right? So it absorbs very rapidly into your bloodstream, and it has an insulin response. So insulin is this lower carb eating. It's very much about controlling your hormones, and we're trying to lower hormones that are fat storage hormones. So the alcohol triggers that insulin release. Okay, so insulin's like the primary fat storage hormone. Okay, so anything, we want to try and avoid anything that's going to trigger those hormones that are going to put us in fat storage mode. We want to be in a fat burning zone. So water's quite important as well. We want to obviously be drinking lots of water every day, at least a couple of liters. Less in winter, more in summer, depending on your body size, but give or take, 2 liters is sort of like a minimum. And that has the effect of filling you up as well. And so in this particular style, you can see like meat and fish, all unprocessed meat and fish is okay. Nuts and seeds are all okay raw. You don't want to go overboard with nuts and seeds. Eggs, good, dairy, oils like extra virgin olive oil, macadamia, avocado oil. So these are all foods that are very low in carbs. So like, these oils have 0 carbs pretty much, same as like meat, and fish and stuff like that. They're very, very, they're either 0 or have hardly any. So these, and then fruit, we're going for more berries, strawberries, raspberries. These are very low sugar fruits comparatively to other fruits. And they tend to be small. So, if you eat a banana, but if you get a big banana, that could have, 20 grams of carbs in it. Like, so if you're trying to stay under 100 grams, you can see how that's going to clock up pretty quickly. And then lots of non-starchy vegetables. So non-starchy, like the fibrous vegetables. And if you want to, refer back to that, what I posted in the group, that'll have all the carb content and all the types of veggies, and it'll have a list of the starchy and non-starchy. So if you look up on that list, like potatoes are crazy, like how many carbs you can accumulate just by eating potatoes. It's really easy to clock up a lot, and you're going to find it hard to keep under that level. Grains, so grains and legumes are very high in carbs as well. So on this program that we've done with clients, we generally avoid grains and legumes altogether. And, we're definitely avoiding like things like bread, white rice, pasta, wraps, grains, sugar, processed foods, and sweetened beverages. All right. So this is, again, I'm giving you the recipe of what I've sort of found out through trial and error that gives maximum fat loss. I'm not saying it's easy to stick to, but I'm telling you what works. All right. So the idea is that you're eating according to that food list. It's pretty much the same, except we're a little bit more stringent in terms of, no brown or white rice. I think we just have like a little bit in the fat loss zone, but absolutely none in the accelerated fat loss zone. But the idea is that we're eating, so, just to make it simpler, if you're sort of thinking somewhere around 50 to 100 grams, experiment with it for yourself and see what works for you. I've had clients that they've eaten 90 grams of carbs a day and that doesn't work for them. They have to go under 70. And that's sort of the sweet spot for them. So you've got to really work out what works for you. And so with this system, the idea is that you're doing 5 days where you're being a little bit more strict and you're putting yourself in that fat loss zone from a hormonal perspective in your body. And then 2 days a week. Now I have to stress this. We're not just, letting everything go on those 2 days. There still needs to be, because I can guarantee you can quite easily undo 5 days of very strict eating and 2 days of bad eating, easily.
Definitely.
Right. So on the maintenance zone, we find like the level is about 150 grams of carbs. But again, I've found, for some of our ladies, even keeping it under 100, like if you're saying maybe 70 might be, your 5 days a week, and then, trying to stay sort of under 100 or 120, maybe 150 max, but experiment with it again on the 2 days. So that gives you a little bit more flexibility. We're not, in terms of the maintenance zone, where have we got there? Alcohol. Okay, so I know this is the one that probably a lot of you want to know about. So it's preferably none. Okay, so preferably none to maximize your results. You can see that's in capitals. So it's a choice. Everything's a choice. But if you have any, be sure to count it towards your daily carb total. Okay, so we're still keeping under that, whether you choose 100, 120, 150, you're trying to stay under that level, and you're counting your drinks. So it all counts towards it. So if you're having, some drinks and then you have, some chips and, it's just going to blow out. So yeah, you've just got to be a little bit careful with that. And then we're just being a little bit more, a little bit of brown rice, quinoa, buckwheat, things like that, little, very small amount of chickpeas, lentils, and, starchier vegetables, things like that. But we're keeping the balance. So keeping the quantities at a level that's going to stay under that total amount. So anyway, I don't want to talk about it for too long, but if anyone's got any, hopefully that sort of just explains it briefly. Does anyone have any questions?
I've got one.
Yep. Who is that?
Tanya.
Hang on. All right, let me just stop my share.
Me.
Go for it. Yep, go for it, Tanya.
Okay, so what about your calorie count? Because I'm in the process of like intermittent fasting,
Yes.
using a MyFitnessPal,
Yep.
also counting calories. So but I'm finding when intermittent fasting, I find it really hard to even meet my calorie count every day.
Yep. Yep. So look, I'm not, to be honest, I'm not that big on counting calories. Look, it's not a bad exercise to give you a bit of an understanding as to, what's in what and, how many calories are in different certain foods. But the thing is that a gram of fat has 9 calories, right? So if you're eating higher fat foods, healthy higher fat foods, like I'm talking, like avocados and things like that.
Look, I'm trying to eat like the things you're telling me, but I'm like, because I need more, I believe I need more protein for the type of body type I am anyway. Just trying to hit my protein levels is hard.
Yep.
Like you said, carbs build up really quickly, so you've got to really pick by the time you picked the hell out of everything, what you're going to eat, I'm not meeting the calorie count, not even close to meeting the calorie count. And I'm still hungry.
Yeah. Okay. So you've got to be careful. Like there's a sweet spot. So with the amount of food that you eat, especially if you're doing like intermittent fasting, you've got to be careful not to under consume. Like, I say that I don't count calories, but it's a general sort of metric. So you don't want to undercount, like you don't want to underdo your calories. Otherwise you're going to go into like a bit of a survival mode. Your body's going to
That's what I'm finding is happening with me. I'm just never being able to meet the calorie count, and therefore my body's storing the food, and and I'm still like, and I'm doing the intermittent, like I've actually not had any trouble doing the intermittent fasting times. That's been the easy part.
Yes.
The hard part's been finding the foods and the time to go and grab everything I need to get me through my working week.
Yep.
At home in the evenings to meet the criteria for low carbs, more protein. It's just, I'm struggling with that part. Not the times.
The easiest way to do it is like literally if you have a salad and you put 1 tablespoon of olive oil, it's like 125 calories. You put 2 tablespoons, it adds up pretty quickly. So like healthy fats are an easy way of upping your calories.
Rob, can I just share? Look, I'm off the wagon at the moment, which is a bit of a shame. But when I have a good time doing intermittent fasting, I find eggs, Tanya. I have scrambled eggs in the morning.
Yep. Me too. No, don't worry. I've been doing the eggs. I've been eating so many eggs. They're coming out my ear. Yes. But no, eggs. I do like eggs, luckily, and I'd be screwed if I didn't.
Avocado on the side. I'll do like first meal. I'll have eggs, and then I'll just do like a salad and just put some olive oil in it. Like it's honestly the easiest way is just to add some fat-rich foods, and you'll get the calories up really quickly. But you've got to be careful not to overdo it as well. I'm
not struggling to get. I'm just struggling to get to the calorie count. Like the point, I'm always under.
Yep.
And I'm not losing any weight.
Yeah. Yeah. So it sounds like you might be in a bit of your body's in survival mode where it feels like it's not, there's not enough food available, so it's going to start to slow your metabolism down. So we want to keep the metabolism firing, but we want to make sure that we're not over consuming, and it's a fine balance point. Intermittent fasting is a good way of, they call it like spontaneous calorie reduction. It's not that you're necessarily trying to reduce your calories, but just because you're sort of, generally skipping a meal, you're going to be eating less food for the day, so your calories are going to go down. So you just got to be careful to make sure, number one is to get enough nutrients. When we're eating less food, we need to make sure that when we are eating, that it's quality, nutrient-dense food. So like if you sort of think about it in terms of like, you know, I don't know, a can of Coke, you know, it's got a lot of calories, a lot of sugar, but it doesn't really have any nutrition. So, you know, whatever, I don't know how many calories a can of Coke is, but
A
I
lot.
don't know.
you know, you can imagine that if you've drank that and you've wasted like a few hundred calories spend and got no nutrients from it. So you could be eating foods that are very nutrient dense for the amount of calories that it costs you to eat, if that sort of makes sense.
Yep.
Well, can I ask a question about intermittent fasting?
Yep. Who is that speaking?
It's Lynn. It's Lynn.
Lynn. Yeah,
Yeah.
go for it, Lynn.
Um,
Yep.
So with intermittent fasting, I've always done it. I'm not doing it at the moment, by the way, but I have done quite a bit of it.
Yep.
I've always done it that I don't eat till 11 in the morning and then I stop eating at 8 or something at night.
Yes.
But should I reverse that, because it doesn't matter what time of day you eat in terms of your metabolism and being able to process food. And I've got one more question. The second one is, when you're actually concentrating and focusing on what you're eating and so forth, has there been any studies done on whether you feel whether psychologically you feel like you're still hungry?
So first question was whether you can do the fasting portion in the morning or the evening. Was that the question? Yeah. So you can, and in all honesty, it's probably better to do it in the second half of the day. But for most people, they find it easier to do it in the morning, just because of the fact that, you know, when at night, most people stop and then they start thinking about food, and it's, you know, it's a bit easier to fast when you're occupied and you're not thinking about things. But yeah, in response to your question, you can definitely do it at either end of the day. As long as you sort of just attach it to your sleep, because your sleep is, you know, it's just going to extend the amount of hours that you're not eating. So you may as well, you know, attach it either to the start or the end of the sleep. So yeah, either way is fine. And then what was the other question, Lynn, about appetite?
I just wondered whether there were any studies done on people when they're watching what they're eating and so forth, that there could be, a psychological kind of hunger, like you feel like you're not getting enough. And I just wondered if there's been studies done on that, because sometimes I get into that as well, where I feel like I'm just not satiated, but I've eaten, a good meal.
So is that after you've been fasting?
When I'm trying to lose weight.
Yep.
So at any time when I'm trying to count calories or, do something, similar to, I'm not sure what the lady's name was, but similar to where you're counting calories, you think you're doing all the right things, you're not getting up to your calories, and you're still feeling hungry, but you're still kind of trying to do all the right things. Is there a combination of, physical and emotional, or, are there studies that point to those sorts of things?
Yeah, look, I've read a lot of books on these sorts of topics, and without going too long, because Mitch is going to have a session in about 5 minutes, but we might have to do another call, I think. But, I know that, like, with the human, our DNA is, I'll try not to go on a tangent here, but me and my son have been watching a show called Alone. Has anyone seen it?
What's it called?
Alone.
Yeah.
Right. So anyway, long story short is they put these people in Canada, like in this island, on their own. They got no food, they got no shelter, they got nothing, and they basically have to stay. The competition is like there's like 10 contestants, and they're on different they're not away from each other, and the winner is whoever can stay there the longest, right?
Are they the ones that are naked?
They're not naked, no.
Sorry.
But the
That's another
interesting,
show.
the interesting lesson from it is that they have no food, right? So they have to try and catch their food. They're in like Canada, so they get salmon and all sorts of stuff. But it's very hard to get food. Like it's a good sort of, I guess, little snippet into what it would have been like, before modern technology, when
Help.
we didn't have supermarkets, we didn't have food at our fingertips and in fridges and stuff like that. But food has always been very difficult to acquire. And it means that there's this drive within us, which is hunger, which is a strong motivator to go and find food. And we're hardwired into finding high calorie food. Like we want things that are rich. It's in our DNA, a survival mechanism. So, in the modern day, when you're talking about, the emotional triggers and all that sort of thing, I think there's definitely a relationship in our DNA that we want to eat, and it's almost like a survival thing, even though, our bodies don't realize that, there's plenty of food around. Like, there's too much food for us around, but it's definitely hardwired into it. So I think, it is a challenge to find that balance, but often it can be nutrient balance. If you're not getting the right balance of macronutrients, carb, protein, fat, then that can lead to hunger as well. Just quickly, we've got just a couple of minutes left. Do you guys want to do it again next week? Can you guys make it earlier by any chance?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah,
try to make it
that'd be
earlier.
good.
I think we probably need an hour,
At least.
at least, yeah. So maybe would 6 p.m. next Tuesday as a part 2 of this
Yeah.
series?
That would work.
Yeah,
That's
that
fine,
would be
thank
good.
you.
Yeah, okay. And maybe if there's any specific questions, if you send it to me beforehand so I can make sure that I cover it.
Yep.
I know that Kate, you sent me a question. What was your one?
Can I ask a quick question? It's Nat here.
Yeah, go for it, Nat.
I'm back at TAFE next Tuesday night, but I noticed you're recording this, so will you be actually posting it anyway?
Yeah, I'll post that. Yeah, I'll record and post
Okay,
that.
cool.
Yep.
Thank
Yep.
you. Also, a quick question. Rice
Yes.
paper rolls, are they acceptable or not acceptable?
Well, I mean, when you say acceptable or unacceptable, they're made of rice. Rice is very starchy, so it's a very high carb food. Obviously, they're very thin, but it will have that insulin effect. But sometimes you have to look it up. You have to weigh it up. Because none of us are perfect. So sometimes it's like, do I have that or that? And if it's the lesser evil of the two. And you're having I don't know, maybe shredded cabbage and carrot.
Yeah, I was thinking that there's green versions with asparagus and broccoli and all sorts of things in them.
Yep.
But and no meat or maybe tuna, but
yeah, or even a better option would be just to use like a lettuce leaf. You wrap it up in iceberg lettuce or something like that. And then it's fully low carb. Is there some questions in the comments? Mitch isn't on yet, so we'll quickly take another question. Let me read through.
Can I just tell you that I actually had no bread in the house one day, and I had some really yummy fillings, and I did put them into lettuce, and it was delicious.
Yeah.
So I made a lettuce sandwich, which was so yummy.
Yep. We quite often do it with do it like as a lettuce cup. And
Then try that.
Instead of like a shell sort of type thing, taco type thing. It's just really, we focus a lot on food swaps, and it's just swapping things. So, it's using that lettuce leaf instead of a wrap or a rice paper roll or a taco or something like that. We're using zoodles instead of pasta. We're using, cauliflower or broccoli grated instead of, rice, which is more starchy. We do pizza bases that are made out of chicken mince and cauliflower sometimes instead of, just normal white flour bases. So it's really just switching ingredients, based. And when you start to work off that sheet, like I was saying before, you start to do the maths. And you're like, all right, that's got that many carbs, that's got that many carbs. And you sort of realize, yeah, there's certain foods that are very low in carbs that you can eat a lot more on and fill up on. And they're generally foods that are high in fat, olives and things like that, which will, help with the calorie, thing that we were talking about before. And it's just really, avoiding those foods that spike your insulin. So, they call them like the white devils, like white flour and,
bread and more bread, rice, pasta.
Bread's, exactly. Bread, rice, pasta, wraps, all of those things that, I'm Italian background. So this is all the stuff that I was brought up on,
Can I just mention something really?
Annie?
Can I just mention something really quickly from a medical point of view as a nurse?
Yes.
And I don't know about any, very quickly, is that I don't know how often people get their bloods checked, but also ones are sometimes, you could be doing all the right things, but I guess if they got a regular blood test with their doctors, just to check their thyroid function, because if your thyroid function and your thyroid TS3, TS4, all these things, your doctor will explain that to you. If they're low, that could be complicating. That you could be doing all the right things, but if your thyroid's not functioning appropriately, that could be inhibiting and causing slowness to all this. So I just thought, I'm not sure how many people go and get their bloods checked, but
I've just done it. That's a great idea. Yep.
No, it was just to throw it out there because some people might get it done regularly, some people might not done it at all, and they could be doing all the right things, but if their thyroid function is low, that also affects their metabolism. So just to throw that in there.
Yeah, and if you do have thyroid issues, you have to be a little bit careful with intermittent fasting as well, because it can, if you're already having issues there, then it can affect your metabolism. And I find, like with fasting, body temperature can be a good clue as to your thyroid function. So if you're getting really cold, sometimes I get really cold when I'm fasting, and I just break the fast then. So I might get to 10 in the morning or something, and I'll be I feel really cold and I need to eat, and I can.
Isn't that called Melbourne weather?
Yeah, pretty much. But some days it's worse than others. So. It's and your body's a dynamic thing. It's not the same every day. So you've got to sort of become quite intuitive with your body and listen to the cues that it's giving you. That's why I say like with the carb, you've got to sort of work out what's going to be the sweet spot for you. Same as the calories. What's the sweet spot of how many calories are going to be right for you each day? What I'll share another. I put this up on, hang on, give me a sec. This is sort of like a meal. I quite often get asked for like meal plans. But this isn't so much a meal plan as more of a structure. Can you guys see that?
Yep.
So this is the general sort of structure of what I normally recommend. So like breakfast, if you might be intermittent fasting, or maybe you're not fasting every day, or maybe you're not doing fasting at all, but that can sort of factor in as breakfast. A green smoothie. So when I say green smoothie, we're talking about like green vegetables, and then just maybe one lower sugar fruit. A lot of people do smoothies and they make them into like a dessert by just having lots of fruit in them. And then again, it ends up being, clocks up all those, the sugar and, not to say that, fruit's bad, but again, as I said at the start, there's eating healthy and there's eating healthy for fat loss. So, my kids, I'm not going to tell them not to, they can just eat whatever fruit they want. That's fine. They're growing, they don't have any weight issues. But if we're talking about, an adult that's wanting to lose weight, then we need to, make sure that we keep that to a lower level. Eggs, greens, fermented veg. So my typical breakfast would be a few eggs. I'll do like just some salad, You know, so it might be, you know, just some baby spinach, some rocket, you know, whatever salads. I'll just put olive oil. So as we were talking about before, I'm going to pump the calories up by putting the olive oil on there in a good way, and some apple cider vinegar, and just, you know, mix it. And that's really quick, easy. And then some fermented vegetables, which I highly recommend everyone have. So like, you know, sauerkraut or kimchi, or, you know, so there's lots of good ones that you can get from health food shops or organic shops. Another option is Brinner. So that's like breakfast. You're eating dinner, so leftovers from dinner for breakfast. You know, the typical breakfast is like cereal, which is foods that, you know, they're all high carb foods that we really want to be avoiding anyway. They're high in sugar. You know, regardless of, don't believe what the packet says. The packet is like a little billboard trying to sell you it. And, you know, it will tell you that it's good for female health and you know, whatever. But when you read the ingredients on it, like I was astounded years ago when I found out, because I grew up on Nutri-Grain, you know, Nutri-Grain, Iron Man food, young teenage boy, you know, I thought that's, you know, it was high in protein, but I realized that Nutri-Grain's got like the highest sugar out of all the cereals, more than Cocoa Pops. So
Wow.
like when you actually read what's in these things, it can be very different to what, you know, the little advertisement on the package says.
Rob,
Yes.
vermicelli noodles, how are they? Very high carb.
Yes.
I believe they're made from rice, are they?
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So, I mean, yeah, they'll again, I prefer just more vegetable, like, you know, you just make like your zoodles or something like that.
Yeah,
You just shred vegetables. That would be the ideal, yeah.
Okay, thanks.
And then, yeah, like a paleo muesli, which, you know, when I say paleo muesli, we're talking, there's no grains, like no oats and all that sort of stuff in there. It's more just nuts and seeds and maybe some coconut, and, you know, without the dried fruits and stuff like that. And then, you know, maybe some plain yogurt, unsweetened milk or something like that with it. Or maybe just some plain yogurt or chia pudding, just with some berries, nuts and seeds. That's sort of
When you, sorry,
Is it the
Rob, can I
Greek
ask-
yogurt?
yeah, that's what I was going to ask. Is it
Greek
Greek
yogurt, yeah, plain
yogurt, man?
Greek. Yeah, same.
Yeah.
Yep. Then a lunch would be what we term a big ass salad. So the idea being a salad bigger than your head. Okay, so that's, I didn't make this term up, but it's Mark Sisson. He popularized this. He's from the primal movement. But yeah, so it's just got lots of veggies, like, you know, non-starchy veggies. And if it's winter, it might be, you know, soup. But obviously we need to make sure that the soup is, you know, we're not doing all the, you know, barley and, you know, all the carb grain sort of stuff in there, which again is going to accumulate all those carbs. Again, it might just be leftovers from the night before, presuming that we're having a healthy dinner. And then dinner would be just a protein, low non-starchy veg, and some healthy fats, you know, so whether it's, you know, a piece of meat, chicken, fish, you know, whatever you like. And then, you know, you've got some, you know, maybe like a homemade dressing with some olive oil and lemon and, you know, whatever, nuts, seeds, avocado, homemade mayo, eggs, something like that on there. And then lower, for snacks, if you want to have them, just some lower carb fruit, veg, yogurt, chia pudding. So that's like a sort of simple, I did post this one in the group as well. You know, it's not giving you specific recipes, but it's more of a overall framework of different things that you can, you know, if you're sort of stuck of what types of foods to have at different times of the day. Was there any more questions about intermittent fasting?
Rob, I've just put in the chat, if you wouldn't mind sharing some of that information about the food swaps next week.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's really interesting.
Yeah. All right. What I'll do, I'll post a video on it. Yeah, I'll post a video in the group, and yeah, we can go through that. I'll post some ideas too.
The other question I had was just really quickly, Rob, is and it mightn't be your forte, but it's all of ours, is that us who've hit the menopause is yeah, I guess it's also the effect of menopause and carbs. Seems to be a bit of research out there on that. I haven't read a lot of it, but it's just that once we hit menopause, we do tend to the carbs and menopause with loss of estrogen and progesterone seems to really affect us. So if you happen to have any of that, I mean, I've read some stuff, but we seem to store more carbs once we've hit the menopause.
Yeah, and you know, part of it is related to the difference in hormones, but also just, you know, as you get older, you lose muscle mass, start to, you know, muscles like you know, always equate it to, you know, imagine you drive to the shop in, you know, like a little 4-cylinder car, or if you drive in this, you know, one of those big, what do they call those? My son likes these cars, those
Like a
big,
V8.
V8. Yes, huge ones. It's like same trip, but one's got a really big engine. It's going to burn through energy really quickly, and you know, one's got a smaller engine. So it's, you know, it's the same as muscle on your body. So the more muscle you have, the bigger your engines of metabolism are, even when you're sleeping, like even at rest when you're not doing anything. Did you have a question, Sue?
I do. Dairy, milk, what, almond milk as opposed to cow's milk, or?
Yeah, I mean, dairy is one of those ones where a lot of people are sensitive to it. So again, like number one, you don't want to be consuming anything that you're intolerant to or allergic or, you know, just sensitive to. So again, it's, you know, I always work on this, you know, you've got to work things out for yourself. Your body, there's no one size fits all that will apply to everyone. You know, I've read so many different diets over the years, and it's like one will be diametrically opposed to the other. Like they'll be the opposite that you can imagine. But this, you know, there's a group of people that have had really good results on this, and there's a group of people that have had really good results on this. So, you know, you've got to really find what works for you. But without a doubt, I've found, like when you're counting calories, we were talking about counting calories before, it's a recipe for disaster, because when you're really trying to restrict your calories, you're battling against hunger, and hunger will always eventually win. And then you'll end up, you know, you go through a period where you're eating very low calories, and then, you know, as a result, your metabolism will start to slow down because it gets used to having less calories and it starts to conserve them. And then as soon as you go back to eating more food, or you have a bigger meal, then your body's still running at that slow metabolic rate. So it'll quite easily store fat. So yeah, low calorie is it never works long term. It works short term, but not long term.
Okay, well, with the milk, I was thinking of chia pudding. Mostly the recipes I have has got almond milk.
Yep.
And I'm fine with milk. Or
I think
any
that's
dairy,
got
I
the
can
lowest
do.
calories, actually.
Yeah,
Almond.
and just make sure it's an unsweetened almond milk. So there's that,
Yeah.
Nutty Bruce, Nutty Bruce
Unsweetened.
brand. So there's
Yep.
that one that's
Hard to go.
sweetened, and there's one that's non-sweetened. So yeah, just go for the
Yeah.
non-sweetened one. Yeah. Yep.
Gotta go.
No worries, Tanya. Thank you.
Thanks. Thanks,
Thank
guys.
Any other
Bye.
questions, guys?
All
Bye,
the
girls.
best this
Thanks
week.
so much, Rob.
That's all right.
Thanks, Rob.
It looks like
Thank you.
we can still keep going if you guys have more questions, because
Where's Mitch?
yeah, it doesn't look like.
Yeah, what happened to Mitch?
I think we're all here, aren't we?
All right. Let me ask one more question. My husband came out today and told me that green tea has, I think he said 80 calories. How can green tea, no milk, no sugar, have 80 calories?
I'll have to look that one up.
No, I don't think
Well,
so.
I did look it up and I'm like, it's fake.
Fake
So it wasn't true.
Fake news. I don't know what the truth is. I just think it has no calories. It's just hot water with
What did it say when you
veggie
looked it up?
leaves.
Did it say? Did you look it up?
No, I didn't.
Oh,
It's
you-
probably like 8 calories or something really, really low is my guess.
Yeah, because it's just flower leaves.
I couldn't imagine. Yeah. I couldn't
And the
imagine
goodness
that
is, it's
would
meant to be
happen.
rich in really high, you know, antioxidants. So, you know, that's meant to be really good for that. But I couldn't can imagine it's got that many high calories. No.
No. And it's supposed to be good for your metabolism. So who knows?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it is.
I don't drink green tea later in the day because it's
Caffeine.
it keeps
Yeah.
That's caffeine.
it's go-go juice.
I read not that long ago that the green tea and normal tea.
It has 0 calories.
Yeah.
That's what I thought.
Did you just look it up, Sheree? Did you just look it up?
Yeah, I just Googled it's 0
Yeah.
calories.
Yeah, I wouldn't have thought it'd have calories. Yeah.
Yeah.
Let's have a look through these. Was there?
It sounds like he
I
has
was just
another
going to
agenda.
say, Rob, can I just
Who was that speaking?
No.
there?
No, go on. I was just going to say, maybe your husband's got another agenda to try and keep you on sweeter drinks.
Maybe.
All right. I don't like sugar anyhow, so there's no problem.
Was there someone else that was just about to ask you a question? No?
I'll ask one.
I was just going to mention, Rob, for the lady that was talking before about menopause, was I've just been actually to a nutritionist, and there's one thing we do lose, or they suggest we should eat more of when we are going through menopause, and that is protein, because the body doesn't retain it like we used to, and also they say to increase your calcium level quite considerably as well. So I thought that was really interesting. But I just find when I'm craving, when you're not supposed to eat anything, you always crave it when you can't have it. I always go to protein, because whether it's tuna, whether it's a piece of chicken or whatever, it just instantly basically, and I just have some water with it, and it just gets your mind off it, get active, it just stops you thinking about, what your body's craving. Yeah, but I find protein's really good to prevent, that craving feeling.
Yeah, it's true. Protein it's got like a high satiation response. Like carbs tend to, especially like higher glycemic, sugary sort of carbs, they put you on that sort of roller coaster where you get hungry and then you eat, and then you get a high blood sugar response, and then often what can happen is your body tries to keep the blood sugar levels pretty stable, so it'll release insulin, and then it'll overdo it, and then you'll end up more hypoglycemic, and then you'll get hungry again, and then you go through that sort of roller coaster of energy and hunger throughout the day. You sort of have like a energy high and then a crash and then a high and a crash. Whereas protein, is more satiating, and it takes a bit longer to sort of break down, and just supplies energy. And even like the order that you eat foods can have an effect as well. So if you're eating the protein and fats first before you have the carbs, then it can slow down the absorption of the carbs as well. So that's even.
Rob.
Yeah, Lynn?
Sorry. Hang on. So what about cheese? I have a real weakness for cheese, and some cheese is better than other cheeses. And are they considered a fat, or are they? I mean,
Yeah,
where
they're more of a higher
categorise
fat food. Yeah, they're more higher fat food. So look, when you sort of look at, say, keto, for instance, keto is like pretty much, predominantly most of your calories are coming from fat, lesser extent, medium amount from protein, and then, a very low amount from carbs and sugars. A misconception is people think it's a high protein diet, where it's not. It's a higher fat from a calorie perspective. But some, you can do anything bad. You can do, some people just eat bacon and cheese when they're doing a keto diet. And, I mean, you can sort of, you can break the rules with anything, if you know what I mean. Like, you can use things to your, you can do things the right way or the wrong way from a health perspective. My sort of take on cheese is, again, look at the, if you're intolerant, or if you have any digestive upset, or it makes you constipated or whatever, it's probably not a good food for you. Like that's what your body's telling you. But I think it's also easy to overconsume it, very easy, because cheese tastes pretty good. So I use it as more of a condiment. So it's more of a, you know, if you're having, you know, say lots of veggies, and then you're just having a bit of cheese with it, then it's like a bit of a flavor enhancer. It's still got nutrients and benefits, but you're just not over consuming. It's easy to over consume because it's very energy dense.
Certainly is. It certainly is.
Yeah, but and you know, most people have it with alcohol and, you know, and cookies that are made of, like, you know, white flour and stuff like that. So you've got to look, the combination of things that go together with it will also have an effect. And if you know, you're raising your blood sugars from the alcohol and the biscuits and stuff like that, and then you're eating a higher fat food, that's also a combination. Like, you know, they say high fat, high carbs. So things like, you know, if you imagine, like, say, you know, fish and chips or something like that, like, you know, you got the chips are potatoes, so they're very high starchy carbs, and then you're deep frying them, so they're just full of, you know, a cheap, crappy oil. It's a recipe for, yeah, it's a recipe for weight gain. Yeah, so my personal take is, yeah, cheese minimum, yeah, minimal amounts, not too much. But, you know, so essentially, like, if you look at your plate, you want to be eating from a visual perspective, not from a, like, not weighing it, but, like, you know, from a visual perspective, generally majority of it should be like non-starchy vegetables. So, like, if you're having salads and things like that, they're very light, but they're fluffy and they take up a lot of room. And then just a sort of medium portion of protein. So again, the protein's good for satiation, like Cherie was saying. Also, you know, if you're doing weight training, like obviously all of us are, you know, your protein requirements are going to be a little bit more, so that you can recover. And, you know, also as you know, each year beyond 50, each decade beyond 50, you know, sarcopenia becomes the thing where you start to just naturally lose muscle mass. So we love to hear about, you know, like osteoporosis and you know, bone thinning, but there's also muscle loss, which is a big thing, and that affects function and metabolism and all sorts of things. So the protein is important as well.
Okay.
Thank you.
Is there any other questions, guys? Like, do you guys want to do another round next week, or do you? I mean, we can keep going. I thought Mitch was coming at 7, but maybe he might have had some people cancel. So I'm happy to continue on if there's more questions.
No, I've got to get in and have something really healthy for dinner.
Very good.
I think getting to the UK next Tuesday.
Yep, that's right. So yeah.
Yes.
We're having to do something
Feel free to
next
type it in if you don't want to say it out loud. That's okay as well. I'll just have a look through the ones here if there's anything that we haven't covered. Anybody?
Question?
I guess my question, I think, was said to you was the types of food in between, because I might have like a brunch and then a dinner, and I'm not great with lunch. But I sometimes think that maybe I'm still not eating sufficient amounts, so I'm still sitting in that survival mode in that brunch and maybe dinner and not having 3 meals. Not that I was always good at 3 meals anyway.
Yep.
But then that's what I was questioning about, the types of food, because it's disgusting. Sometimes mornings I'll go for the yogurt or a smoothie and a Greek yogurt and fruit.
Yep.
But then other mornings I'll just go, I couldn't be bothered, and I just go for toast, and then I have a dinner later on. And I sometimes think it's the type of food that I'm not having, and I'm still sitting in that survival mode. So it stores it even though I'm doing the fasting period.
Yep.
Yeah. So it was also that type of food. And I mean, I know it should be protein, but you know, just a bit of carb in the morning. I need that sugar to the brain. And they say you need a certain amount of percentage of some sort of carb to get the sugar to the brain. But
you can't avoid carb. Like you won't be able to avoid it completely.
But yeah, was it just like 2 meals? And then I guess at those 2 meals, it's more protein and veg and a bit of fats, or, you know, like I said, I'd have some toast in the morning and then I have a meal, but then I just don't think it seems to be.
Yeah.
I think I'm still sitting in that survival mode.
Maybe you need to have some nuts or something.
Yeah, even some nuts. Sometimes, like when we did our retreat last time, I did the program as well. And I was finding when I was doing longer fasts, I was getting like just a handful of nuts and coconut oil, like a tablespoon of coconut oil and some nuts. And I was just eating that. And that was that was sort of, you know, almost fueling my metabolism. So I wasn't getting cold, it wasn't, you know, sort of lowering my metabolism. It was keeping me pumping, and then I could go a little bit longer until the first meal. But yeah, in relation to like types of foods to eat, if you're fasting, so say if you're skipping breakfast, and you're just doing, you know, like a brunch, you know, sort of late breakfast, early lunch, and then a dinner, you might like to do a snack in between. You know, some people do it that way. You don't have to. But again, I guess the biggest concern is nutrients. That you're getting nutrient-dense food. So if you're having toast, it's not going to really be ideal in terms of nutrient content. But if we're having, you know, lots of non-starchy vegetables, we're having some good healthy fats, and, you know, some good protein in there, then, you know, most people's problems these days are that they eat too much. not that they, you know, not that they don't eat enough. And you've got to be careful that you don't go from eating, you know, not much, and then you go to eating a huge amount. So you've got to keep that balance. You know, you've got to keep that right balance. But yeah, I would look at nutrient-dense foods, making sure that you're eating, and like I said before, you just add some extra fats to increase the calories, so you're not under consuming from a calorie perspective.
Yeah, that's
Just
probably what I'm
having
doing.
hard-boiled eggs on hand or something. Those are easy things to grab if you're shorter time for your first meal of the day.
Yeah, exactly.
I do that. The only thing is I do have a genetic cholesterol issue, so I do have to watch some of the fat. So I went to coconut oil, but now I've realized that it's quite high with the good fats, but with the cholesterol. So I have then an issue of watching the types of fats I have to have.
Yeah.
And I've just got that genetic cholesterol because I don't eat high fat food, but you just go, oh, well, it's just crap. You got to keep to a lower type
I think you
cholesterol.
can do chia puddings, overnight chia puddings and stuff too, which are nice. You can do them up
Yes.
Yeah,
a
yeah.
week in advance or whatever and have them in the fridge, and as long as no one else eats them.
Yeah. Yeah, we do them, like I'll do like a big chia pudding, and sometimes have it for, you know, 3 or 4 days.
Okay.
And I'll just mix it with a bit of yogurt and have it, you know, it's just in the fridge. So it's just like that, having those go-tos are good to have. Even like seed crackers. I'll post my seed cracker recipe. That's a really good one. So they're just like, they're literally made of like linseeds, and, you know, you can put whatever you want in them. They're just seeds essentially, just grated, and they come out like crackers. They're nice and crunchy. And then you can just put, you know, a little bit of tuna, a bit of avocado, tomato, you know, some, you know, whatever, carrot ribbons, you know, we've got all sorts of different recipes.
Yeah. That'd be good. Yeah.
And that's we will do them once a week. So I'll make a batch of them on the weekend, and then I've got them during the week. So that's like a good snack food. Snacks are often quite often where people sort of get a little done.
But they fall down,
Yeah, they fall down. Like the main meals are sort of a bit more structured and easier, but it's good to have a few things like that on hand. Like if you have the chia pudding, if you have the the crackers, you know, even just chopping up some, you know, some veggie sticks and stuff like that.
Veggie sticks and hummus.
Yeah, and hummus, or you know, you just mash some avocado with some lemon juice, salt and pepper. That's like a dip.
And garlic.
Yeah, there's lots of options. It's just being creative, and, you know, and again, you know, like if you're doing, say, for instance, that avocado dip, you know, that's going to be high in calories as well. So, you know, if you're worried about undernourishment, under eating, you know, plus avocados are obviously very nutrient dense in lots of fat soluble vitamins and things like that. So, it's well worth, you know, having something like that with the crackers and with the veggie sticks and things like that.
Okay.
Hmm.
All right. Excellent.
Thank
All right.
you.
Well, thank you.
All right. Well, we might do another one next week, and we'll do the topic of food swaps. So what I'll do a bit of a presentation, because I think it helps to have ideas, like to get a bit of inspiration and different things that you can try. And it might be stuff that you haven't thought about before. And if anyone has any good ones, because I learn different ones off different clients as well. So it's good to sort of, you know, put everyone's brains together and share ideas. But I'll present my favorite ones next week and just show you, you know, some food swaps of, you know, some traditional recipes that I just tweak certain things to sort of fit into, you know, the framework of what we've talked about, that sort of lower carb style of eating that's, you know, whole food, nutrient dense. But if anyone else has any ideas, then
Can you put the chia pudding recipe up, or please?
yeah, I can. Yep.
Thank you.
No worries. So we might make it 6 p.m. next week.
Yeah, that'd be good.
You guys you're all okay to make 6 p.m.? I'll record it anyway.
We're happy to do that.
All right. We'll leave it at that. Well, hopefully you guys got a little bit out of tonight. I might have just got the wheels turning a little bit in your minds. And sort of, you know, think about a few more questions as the week goes on. So feel free to message me if you have any questions, or if you want any specific recipes. I'll post the seed crackers. What else did I say? The chia pudding, and then we'll go through a whole heap of other food swaps next week.
Print out your paper. That's
Print
good.
out paper. Yep.
Yeah, that's really good.
So,
All right.
I
Thank
recommend
you.
on your
Yeah.
page.
Okay, thank you.
All right. Thank
Thanks
you,
a lot,
guys.
Rob.
Thanks for joining.
Bye.
Bye, ladies.
Thanks, guys. Okay. Bye.
Thanks,
Bye.
Rob.
Bye.
See ya.
Thank you.
Later.